Hello, I'm Don Leafy with Gulfstream Air Video. I'd like to welcome all of you to Ring It Out Volume 3. Once again, we're pleased to have Dave Patrick help us on this tape. We've got a lot to cover. Let's get to it. Dave, welcome back. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. This tape we're going to do today is on hot dogging. Like the other tapes we've done before, we'll learn that most maneuvers are based on the loop, spin, or roll.
Well, if that was important, obviously, in 1 and 2, it's no less important in Volume 3, I guess, huh?
Right, absolutely.
David, what constitutes hot dog?
Don, I like to think hot dog flying as flying with a added dimension of perceived risk, such as flying lower or unusual maneuvers such as lump shavacs, torque rolls, that type of thing.
Perceived risk, so even a simple maneuver like a loop that was begun low and finished low would qualify?
Absolutely. You fly a loop at high altitude, there's no risk in that, and it's an ordinary loop. You start a loop a couple of feet off the ground, you finish it a couple of feet off the ground, there's a much higher perceived risk and a lot more fun to watch.
David, for the first time in this series of instructional videos, you're using a giant scale aircraft, a Godfrey Extra 300. Are there any differences in these giant scale planes versus the ones that we have been using?
Yeah, Don, there are a lot of differences. This particular 300 that we have in the video was flown at this last Tournament of Champions. The bigger airplanes, they do fly better if powered and configured properly. This 300 has a very powerful 4.2 cubic inch engine, delivering around 8 or 9 horsepower. The bigger airplanes don't flirt about the sky, they probably fly in the wind better. Things happen a little more slowly, and they're easier to see.
Are there any construction differences?
From a structural point of view, yes. On a small airplane, you could have a simple sheet for a stab. You wouldn't get away with that on a large airplane such as this. So structurally, they're a lot more sophisticated.
Is there a different attention to safety or more attention to safety?
Well, at many flying fields, you'll see somebody starting a 40-size airplane by themselves. That's not really proper or safe form. However, don't even consider it with these large airplanes. A 40 may have a half a horsepower. These engines we're dealing with, we're talking 8 or 9 horsepower. There's no way you could hold one of these things back if the throttle was to stick in the high position.
Right. David, in Volume 1, you talked about setting up a 2-stroke engine. Volume 2, you covered 4-stroke engines. We're dealing with giant scale aircraft here for the first time in Volume 3, and I'm noticing some big, huge engines hanging off the front of these. Can you tell us anything about those?
Well, as far as setting up, the good news is they set up just like a simple 2-stroke that we're used to. They are 2-stroke engines, just a lot larger. They have a high-speed and a low-speed needle setting, and you set them up rich just like we talked about, and work your way in to maximum power just on the rich side, which is the optimum setting for these engines.
Just take your time and get it right. Huh?
Right, correct.
David, this Quadra engine has an ignition. We've not seen that before in anything that we've used in the previous 2 tapes. Can you tell me something about that?
Sure. Ignition is to allow gasoline as a fuel. Gasoline is a much cheaper alternative than methanol, which we use in our smaller 2-strokes. The larger engine consumes a lot of fuel, and if we had to put model airplane fuel, we're talking a significant cost in operation. This Quadra here is a very popular choice for the giant scale flyer. It's economic to purchase, economic to use, and it's very easy to set up as well.
Dave, you've already talked to us about this Quadra engine that's on ignition, but I see that the one that you're holding is on glow. What can you tell us about that?
Sure, Don. This is an example of the Infinity 4.4 glow engine. What you get when you go to glow is more power and lighter weight. This engine is similar to the type that's used at the Tournament of Champions, where you need the maximum amount of power possible. Also, what comes with that is a higher price tag. You're looking possibly 2 or 3 times the price. If you're looking for the highest performance possible, you'll choose an engine such as this one here.
David, I'm charging my transmitter packs and receiver packs with the charger that came with my radio. I notice here in your shop you've got a much more sophisticated unit. What's the advantage of that?
That charger works great. It charges at the correct charge rate and it does a fine job. What it doesn't do, however, it does not tell you the condition of your battery. Before you fly, you'd like to know whether your battery is in fact fully charged, like you have a full tank of gas. By cycling your battery, it's good for your battery. It keeps it in its peak condition, and it tells you accurately how much capacity that battery truly does have. When you buy a battery, it might measure 500 milliamps initially, and as you use it, it'll slowly go down 450, 400, whatever. As a rule of thumb, when I get down to about 75% of rated capacity, I discard the pack and buy a new one.
David, your Giant Scale Extra 300 is set up for smoke. We've not seen that in either Volumes 1 or Volume 2. Can you tell us a little bit about your setup?
Sure. This is a system I developed for the TOC Extra 300. It's totally integrated. It has the battery, the switch, the pump, all in one unit, so I can easily remove it, put it back in as required. Other systems, sometimes you can drive a pressure pump from the crankcase, or simply take crankcase pressure and inflate the tank itself. All systems work very well. I just like this one just because it can be easily removed and put back in. Well, let's go try it out. One of the airplanes we're going to use today is the Carl Goldberg Models Ultimate 10-300, a very popular kit. We're using a YS-120 Futaba radio, and it's an excellent aerobatic airplane, particularly for hot dogging. Here we have the Finesse 120, a 4-stroke 120 FAI design. While not suited for hot dogging, it's very smooth and highly competitive in FAI. We're using a YS-120 air chamber, a 1512 APC propeller, and 25% Power Master fuel. And here we have an Extra 300, a bit over 30% of full size with a 96-inch wing and 22-pound flying weight. An Infinity 4.2 swinging at 2212 at about 7,600 RPM provides plenty of power. This model is actually the one I used at the last TOC, and in fact, 9 other competitors used Bob Godfrey designs. Here we have a flat spin from upright. Like the spins before, you slow the airplane down, throttle back, hold the nose up. Once it falls, give full input, which is full up, full left rudder, full left aileron. Now we slowly work in right aileron, which is opposite. That puts the airplane flat. To recover, just let go of the controls and away we go. Notice we're throttling back now. Keep the wings level. Nose drops. Full left rudder, full left aileron, full up elevator. Now watch the ailerons slowly to the right. Start to go flat. To recover, just simply let go of the controls. Don't start this maneuver too low. Some aircraft don't come out of the flat spin very quickly.
David, let me ask you, some planes don't seem not to be able to do a flat spin very well. Why is that?
Some aircraft have so much inherent stability designed into them, they just will not flat spin. By moving the CG aft, adding more throw, usually we'll coax an airplane into a flat spin using these inputs.
What about if it won't come out? Do you ever have that problem?
Occasionally, if you have too far of an aft CG condition, the thing to do is you have to unstall the airplane. What you want to do is give down elevator, in this case, an opposite rudder with no aileron input. Try the down elevator first. If that doesn't do it, try the opposite rudder and down elevator, and maybe even a little bit of power. If it still won't come out, well, you'll probably just watch it go all the way down. So when you're adding tail weight to make these aircraft flat spin, be very, very careful, because there's a point where it will not recover. Okay, we're doing the same maneuver, but from the inverted position. Basically the same thing. Full down elevator, full opposite aileron and rudder. But now we give aileron in the same direction, and the airplane will go quite flat. Give yourself plenty of altitude to recover, particularly when you're first time. These maneuvers are really fun to do, and they're quite spectacular. When you see a regular spin, all of a sudden the airplane starts to slow down and go flat. It's very impressive.
It is impressive. You really do want some serious altitude before you do these, right?
Especially when you're learning it with an airplane you're not that familiar with, because like I say, some aircraft won't flat spin and some flat spin very easily and take some time to recover. The ultimate recovers quite nicely. It's very fast. Here we have full right rudder, full left aileron. That's cross-controlling with full down elevator. Now watch. See, we're starting to feed in opposite aileron, and it'll really start to go flat. Sometimes it'll go flat with neutral aileron. Sometimes you have to give opposite aileron. It'll vary from airplane to airplane. Again, just let go of the controls, instantly stops.
You seem to build up quite a bit of speed once the nose is pointed back down before you attempt to pull up. You're obviously doing that on purpose.
Right. In flying aerobatics, you have, I call, two friends. One is speed, the other one is altitude. If you're flying slow, you should be high. If you're flying low, you should be fast. This gives you maneuvering headroom, if you will. Get you out of trouble just in case something goes wrong. There she goes, starts to go quite flat. If you have smoke, it's very interesting to see how the smoke curls along the top of the wing and the fuselage when you're flat. I could do those all day. They're great fun.
They're fun to watch also.
Here we have in real-time close-up. With the right airplane, you can be very, very comfortable with. Plenty of speed. And there we go. Here we have the knife edge spin. Really interesting maneuver. What's really happening, you're cross-controlling the controls. I'm doing it from upright and pushing over negative. Now you'll see I spin it just like we did before. See, up elevator. Now we push down and cross-control. And you lose altitude very, very rapidly. The airplane's coming down sideways. You're spinning on the side of the fuselage. It's a very interesting maneuver. This one you'll lose a lot of altitude quickly, not like a conventional flat spin where you're coming down very slowly. So to start this one quite high. However, the recovery is very, very quick because you have lots of airspeed. Here we are upright, throttle back. You notice I reached for a switch. I'm just making sure the smoke system is off. Okay, we hold the nose up, and we're going to spin it conventionally. Here, to the left. Now I push down. And you notice we're coming down. On this case, we're coming down on the right wingtip. And it's coming down very quickly. Now watch how quickly the recovery is. It's virtually instant. Look at that. Because you have so much speed coming down. Make sure you have plenty of altitude. You can actually start it from inverted. It's the same control input.
Mm-hmm.
I think it looks kind of neat starting it from upright and finishing upright.
That plane is falling like a rock
Yeah,
while it's in that configuration.
All that's slowing it down is the side of the fuselage since you're coming down sideways. Again, some airplanes won't knife edge spin very well. The Ultimate, for some reason, seems to want to roll out, and I don't quite understand why. But the extra knife edge spins very nicely.
Mm-hmm. Really a cool looking maneuver.
Yeah, it's unusual. Here's something that we put a couple of maneuvers together. We're starting from inverted. Now here you need an airplane that has a lot of structural integrity. It's a very violent outside snap, and the airplane, in this case, the Ultimate, will go automatically into a flat spin. Again, plenty of altitude, because you're coming down awfully fast, going straight down. We're just putting in the inverted spin input right now. It violently snaps and goes into a flat spin.
Yeah, show me how you do that. I want to learn that one.
Okay, now we can see the stick input. We're not doing very much, except it's when we're doing it, and it's going straight down. I can't emphasize, you got to make sure your airplane has a lot of strength. Biplanes are inherently stronger because of the shorter span of the wings, and the two wings are working together to give you additional strength.
Mm-hmm.
Notice that I still have the power on. So we're going at a pretty good clip. Still, now we're really going down fast. Throttle back and just give it full down and snap. It's one thing to see it on a TV screen. To do it live, it's a very impressive maneuver. And the sound it makes because of the rushing wind over the wings and such, it's pretty impressive.
It is impressive.
When I demonstrate the Ultimate, I use this maneuver as part of the routine. It gets a lot of attention. The screen doesn't really show you the speed at which you're coming down and how quickly it stops the airplane, because we're coming down at tremendous speed right here. It's like a big parachute just stops the airplane.
Right. When you come out of flat spins, you really do take your time and make sure that your nose is down and you create some energy before you pull back out, don't
Absolutely.
you?
If you like to do stuff low, you'll find quickly that airspeed is your friend.
Mm-hmm.
I try to fly, especially when I'm getting low, with the thought that the engine could quit any minute, and can I make it back?
Mm-hmm.
Here, we have lots of speed. If the engine was to quit, I could make it back.
Mm-hmm.
Here we're doing a simple knife edge, but we're doing it on takeoff. Now, we could have done a little bit longer if those trees were further away, but we're getting pretty close to those trees. Turn on the smoke, power up. You know, we're dealing with a fairly simple maneuver, but it's a lot more impressive when you do it low.
And from takeoff.
Right. Notice, well, we need lots of power to do this maneuver as well. Notice, too, that the nose is slightly up before I roll.
Mm-hmm.
This requires less top rudder, and it makes it a little bit more of a straight line. So pitch up first, roll, add top rudder. In this case, I'm rolling right, so it's left top rudder. You should have that in your mind already preset.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to roll right, which means left top rudder.
Well, obviously, you would want to have the knife edge, basic knife edge maneuver down pat before you try it on takeoff.
Right.
Right.
Here we have a reverse knife edge. We wanted to show you the finesse. It really is a very smooth flying airplane. FAI aerobatics, which is this style of flying. Left rudder first, and we switch over as we roll over to right rudder. That's not to say you can't do that maneuver with a finesse. Bring it down real low. It can be very impressive.
Mm-hmm. Flies like it's on rails.
Yeah. However, you wouldn't really want to do some of the tumbling maneuvers with this type of aircraft. They're not designed to do it, but it does this type of maneuvers extremely well. Here we have a knife edge snap. Smoke on, knife edge position, and snap. Again, you got to make sure you have a pretty strong wing. I've in fact done some damage to this airplane from doing this maneuver. So you have to be very careful. Entry speed is the key. If you notice, I didn't have full power until just before I start the maneuver. And snap. Notice how we keep a little left aileron? I'm sorry, a little left rudder. This holds the airplane in knife edge after you finish the snap. Full power. Roll right, left rudder to hold it. Now to stop the snap, you take all the rudder out. But as soon as you've taken it all out, the snap is stopped, then you hold the little left rudder to keep the knife edge going afterwards.
Here again, you would practice this at altitude before you'd bring it down.
Definitely. You don't want to get confused at this low altitude. Things will happen awfully quick. Okay, here we have the knife edge circle. What's different about this is that we're doing it to the outside. In other words, we're pushing down elevator. Practice this one up with some altitude as well, because it may look simple, but it can be disorienting.
Here we go in slow motion.
Right. Try to keep the wings vertical. You can see we probably have about 50% rudder on this case to keep the nose airplane flying a knife edge.
So your elevator is what's drawing that circle, is
Right.
what's scribing that circle for you.
That maneuver is a little deceiving. It's a little bit more difficult to do than it looks. Again, some of these maneuvers are much more spectacular in real life than on a screen, but it's a fun maneuver to do. And once you can do an outside circle, you can do like figure eights and knife edge and that type of thing.
How difficult is this to do just the first time? And that you wouldn't.
I would say it's a fairly difficult maneuver.
Yeah, you would have to go and practice it and
Yeah.
gain your proficiency just like anything else, I guess. Huh?
Start high, maybe a couple hundred feet. It seems that the area of most confusion is right here. As you're starting to push to come towards you, right around here, that can be sometimes confusing. The last quarter of the circle.
Yeah.
Knife edge loop. Monoplanes typically don't do knife edge loop. This TOC Extra 300 just has such a tremendous amount of power and rudder authority, we can make it. Notice we're coming down a tremendous speed on the downside of that loop.
Nice little snap at the end.
Yeah. A couple of things that make this happen: a lot of power, a lot of rudder authority, good side area. Okay, we roll the knife edge, we start feeding in rudder, and the airplane starts to climb. This is the easy part. Now we're coming straight up. This is the horsepower part. Now, as we're reaching the top, you notice I'm taking off some of this rudder. This helps to make the loop more round. Just as we reach about the top, I throttle back and use a little opposite rudder to hold the nose up. If we weren't to throttle back, it'd make that part of the loop the radius too large and may not recover. So we throttle back, add rudder, full power, and we finish the knife edge loop. That's optional.
Yeah, I just thought you'd wave the tail and do a snap, huh?
The sound of these things coming down the backside of the knife edge loop, particularly the large models, is really impressive. Throttle back, little top rudder, feet in the left rudder again, and full power. There you go.
You've got to have a plain little knife edge. You've got to have an engine that's up to the task.
More than knife edge, you've got to be able to climb with great authority in knife edge for this to happen. Biplanes, like I said, typically it's a lot easier to do it. It's unusual that a monoplane does it. The Extra 300 has a large canopy, generous side area, and this one has a ton of power, so it can do it.
Very nice.
Oh, here we have a 4-point stall turn. Notice that as we apply the rudder, we're using a little bit of opposite rudder to stop the stall turn. You'll see this on the transmitter. I like to do this by facing the airplane so you can see it. It shows better. Okay, right rudder. Now watch this, a little bit of top rudder. We have about a half power, more top rudder, and we finish the maneuver.
Oh yeah, you're actually going past neutral.
Right, that stops it or else it'll just keep on going around. And notice I have power too.
Right.
If we were to pull the power all the way back, it wouldn't give you any air over the rudder, so it wouldn't be effective.
Well, you know, the stall turn was one of the first maneuvers you taught us in Ring It Out Volume 1. And just the addition of these 4 little points, look how much more interesting it makes it just by a little small change.
You know, a simple stall turn is fun to watch, but you put a 4-point into it, and it's really interesting.
It is. It's very nice.
Keep the power up. See the top rudder? There we go. Back to the simple stall turn. Again, with a little bit of a twist. We're going to do it right after takeoff.
Oh, cool.
And come right back down to land.
Yeah.
So all we've done here is done a simple stall turn and a landing. We tied them together and made something interesting of it.
That is very nice.
It's a really fun maneuver, especially on a calm day. I can do these all day.
Several things that you've mentioned in previous tapes just really jump out in my mind. The part about making sure your engine is reliable and this and that. It would seem to me that would be a bad time to figure out you had an engine problem.
Right.
So while it's a simple maneuver and one that you taught at the first, this maneuver brings up all the basic points that have been brought up before.
Well, we also talked about that even the most complicated maneuver really is a combination of a bunch of, I should say not a bunch, but it's a combination of the basic simple maneuvers. Loop, roll, snap is
just very nice for that to happen. On takeoff, it's not expected, and it really does add. It's very, very nice.
Here we have this in real time. Timing of the rudder application is pretty critical here. Airplane just about stopped. Hit the rudder as it slides through. Keep the power back. Make sure you got the runway made, and settle in for landing.
Perceived risk. You were right.
Perceived risk,
You were right.
absolutely. Here we have what I call a flying stall turn. I roll 90 to get the airplane look, nice view of the airplane. What we're doing is we're doing a stall turn, but we stop. and we fly out knife edge. Again, it's somewhat of a power maneuver. It takes good power. I'm not flipping a rate switch here. I'm just turning smoke on or off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, pull up, roll 90 degrees. Get a good view of the airplane. As the airplane stops, right rudder, power, and left rudder to fly off knife edge.
This is impressive.
Now you'll notice the right stick is doing some work. What's happening is that we're at very low air speeds, and the airplane's going to tend to want to wander a little bit, either roll or pitch. So you have to pay attention to that. So as you rotate to knife edge, you're at knife edge at very low airspeed. So be prepared to manipulate elevator or aileron to keep the thing straight. And away we go.
It would seem like the transition there between the stall turn and that knife edge would be the key.
Yeah.
Really is a cool maneuver.
Again, here we have a knife edge and a stall turn. A combination of the two makes something even more interesting.
Yeah.
Here we have a knife edge loop, basically, but started from a stall turn. I call it a 270 stall turn. What's impressive about this is the airplane goes up. Again, I like to roll 90 to get a good view of the airplane. The airplane is just about stopped. Little right rudder to get things going, some inertia in the rotation. Got full left rudder. Now we apply power, and it flies out. That's another favorite maneuver of mine. It can be pretty impressive. The key to this one is really the timing of the rudder and the throttle. Not putting on the power too early. Notice we throttle back, all the way back, and then up on the power. If you don't come all the way back on the power, you won't get the rotation as quick as you want, and it'll take a lot more airspace to recover.
Very nice. Show us full screen here.
Little right rudder to get things going. Good rotation, throttle back, and throttle up. I think a knife edge circle would be a good maneuver right after this. Here we have a vertical snap, or snap on the up line. Into a stall turn. Just a couple simple rolls. Now let's look at this. There's some interesting points. Pulling straight up, that's easy to do. Before we do the snap, I'm doing a left snap, so I'm going to lead with a little bit of right rudder. See the right rudder? Then I do the full left snap, and I hold the right rudder in to maintain that straight up line. As the airplane continues to straighten up, you remove some of the right rudder. Now we're going to stall left. Keep some power. Two rolls on the down line, and we pull out. A couple of keys here is a quick application of right rudder before we snap left, and then the application of right rudder after the snap. Stall turn like we have done before. I'm turning the smoke off here. A couple of rolls, nice and axial, and pull out. Of course, if you want to snap right, you got to lead with the left rudder. I like to snap left because the torque of the engine helps a little bit.
Right.
power around.
Very nice.
That airplane rolls so nicely. We're going to do a couple of snaps. We're going to do a snap in one direction and the next. Right snap and left snap.
That's cool.
We're just fooling around with the power here. Okay, power up. Smoke on. Let's do a right snap first. And a left snap. Again, a simple snap. One to the left, I should say one to the right, one to the left. What makes this interesting is that they're tied together.
Mm-hmm. And I hate to keep mentioning this, but obviously you want to have this down at altitude before you would give it a try.
Snap on takeoff. Be careful of those trees. Look out. I mean, we all know how to take off, and we've learned to snap a long time ago. Now it's tying these two maneuvers together. The first time you want to do it, you might want to do it, say, at 100 feet after takeoff.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go down to 75, 50, whatever makes you comfortable. And you work your way down to snap on takeoff.
It really is impressive. And mostly you don't know it's coming up, so all of a sudden to see that happen on takeoff is really visually impressive.
Another point here which will improve your comfort level, when you do a positive snap, it automatically pitches the nose up, giving you more altitude. So don't be quite as afraid to do this maneuver. Rolling circle, probably the most difficult maneuver to do. What we're really doing is a slow roll and changing a heading of 90 degrees, in this case, during every roll. So we're doing 4 rolls. This is the easier version of the rolling circle. We're doing 4 turns to the outside. At the TOC, we had one from inverted. We started the first roll to the inside, second roll to the outside, and the third to the inside, ending up inverted again. That was pretty tough. It's a constant mix. If you look, you're going to keep the aileron basically the same place, and it's a constant mix of left rudder, right rudder, back and forth, and elevator to have the airplane turn as we're rolling. As you practice this, I found that the first 2 or 3 rolls were quite easy. It was the last one, which is this one right here. Here we have left rudder, down elevator, a little more down elevator, coming up on the right rudder and up elevator to finish it.
When you attempt to learn this, David, do you attempt to learn it all in one contiguous piece, or would it be advisable to learn it in quadrants?
I like to learn things in pieces and build.
Uh-huh.
Get the first one, I should say the first roll down pat. Then when you're comfortable with that, then you go the first and second. When you're comfortable with that,
Okay.
first, second, and third. Obviously, you should be comfortable with a slow roll before you even start with a rolling circle.
Right. You were right. All of this stuff builds on each other. Just simple stuff added together.
The Ultimate is an excellent airplane to practice rolling circles. You have great rudder authority. The airplane's not too fast. There we have it. Not bad.
Very nice.
Here we have a tail slide. Obviously, we started that one a little lower than we probably should have.
Yeah, and those trees really were there.
Those trees were really close, yeah. probably the key to this is don't throttle all the way back, and you really got to manipulate your elevator and rudder. You can see we're kind of fooling around with the rudder here, trying to keep it straight. It starts coming back. We got to keep the power up a little bit, and away we go. It breaks off. If we had smoke, that would have disappeared into smoke. Yeah, we were close to those trees.
David, if we were to film you doing another one and immediately showed it behind this, your hands would be doing something different, wouldn't they? You adjust for every single time you do that, don't you?
Right. What we're really trying to do is to make sure the fuselage is as perpendicular as possible. And every time you do it, it falls a different way.
Like
So,
balancing a broomstick on two fingers, huh? You just move
Exactly.
your hands around. It's very nice. It fell forever. It doesn't show how long that plane fell.
This is one of our favorite maneuvers. Just the sound alone is great fun. Get up. What we're doing is somewhat of a controversial definition. Some people call it a shoulder snap, cross snap, Lumshavak. All we're doing here is we're pulling up about 30 or so degrees, and we're doing an outside cross snap. Smoke on for effect. Push. There, you see? Left rudder, left aileron, and away we go. Some people define this as a Lumshavak, or a variant of a Lumshavak.
Bring it around and show that again. That's cool.
At the TOC, I practiced this maneuver doing 2 of these snaps. And I had plenty of speed, and I got a little brave, and I tried a third one. And I didn't realize how the airplane starts to slow down rapidly. 1, 2, and I kept it on for one more, and it was pretty low to the ground when I recovered.
Very nice.
Notice the little lead of the right rudder in that snap going up. You know, what we're talking about here is hot dogging, and how that is different from regular flying. Here we're doing a simple loop, but we're doing it low. That makes it a lot more interesting.
It does. It does. And that very well may be the first maneuver everyone learns
Right.
is a loop, and you wouldn't think that it would make it to the hot dog tape. This
Something
is
to bear in mind here. If you're nervous about doing this, if you start off low and you made it to the top, well, if the airplane made the first half, it'll probably make the second half. Well, wasn't that fun? Let's go back to the shop and talk a bit more.
good.
Well, Don, that was a lot of fun. Just remember, don't practice too hard. Enjoy yourself. Remember our basic building blocks of what it takes to construct a maneuver. Don't be afraid of trying something new, and we'll see you next tape.
Thank you so much, David. Appreciate
All right.
it.
You're welcome.
David, what constitutes hot dog?
Tube steak and a roll.
That is a true definition.
Okay, are we rolling?
Tape is still rolling. Stand by.
I could see his eyes. It was really neat.
David, this Quadra engine has an ignition. We've not seen that. Son of a... Don't do this to me. David, this Quadra engine has an... David, this Quadra engine has an ignition. We've not seen that on anything we've used before.
What's the question?
You're right. You're right. Stop it. Okay. Take 4.
It wasn't me, it was him.
I know.
Make a good one here.
Okay.
4, 3, 2.
Keep blowing, please. John, cue me again.
Okay. Take 3.
Not only we have to learn how to do this on a nice calm day like today. Do you see that bee? The Blues Brothers. 1, 2, 3, go.